Okay, welcome. Today we're gonna make a real quick thing. I added a couple things in the off time. I had some camera shake and I was playing around with the background. But the big thing I did was I fixed the tile set, so no longer do I have those weird open gaps that were in the tiles before. But I figured today I don't have a whole lot of time, so I didn't want to spend too much time thinking about what I'm gonna do and stuff like that. So today we had that one section where we needed to add a trap. So I grabbed a couple different animated sprites. So we got, I believe, a bear trap, a swinging sword that falls from the ceiling trap, and then we have a I forgot what the other one is. Let me take a look here. Bear trap and spikes. We got some spike traps. So we'll see how many of these we can get through in the hour that we have together, and let's go ahead and with that, let's get started. Okay, so over here in our Godot, we had the key yesterday. Let's go over here. So right here in this room is where we want to add that. So for our testing purposes, let's go ahead and just move our assassin all the way over to this room, so that when we start testing, he'll be in the right spot. This is... Which room is this? This is... Traversal room, up, down, 1, I believe. Yes, there we go. Okay. So, let's start with... I think the bear trap is going to be the most fun. Let's start with that. So bear trap, here we go. Let's see here. Let's start a new add child node. Yeah, let's create it as an area 2D. We're going to call this bear trap. Okay. We're going to add a sprite to it. Sprite 2D. Okay. We're going to add in our 32 by 19 bear trap. So let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so animation is going to be 5 horizontal frames, and we've got 4 vertical. Okay, that's good. Let's make sure we move the actual area 2D, not just the sprite. So let's go put this down. We'll probably end up replacing this. Put the spikes in here in the end, but for right now, let's just put this in here. So there's that. We need to add a collision shape to it. Okay, create. Let's make this one a rectangle because that will be the easiest. So in here, let's make it the width of the bear trap. Yep, and then, yeah, because we want to trigger it. Do we want to trigger it when the player lands? Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to trigger this when the player lands on it. So we're going to make it the size of the bear trap. Then we'll make the hurt box actually bigger so that it'll encompass more when the player gets hurt. Okay, so we've got our collision shape, we got the area 2D, we got the sprite. We need, you know what, let's do this as a unique scene. Say branch as a new scene. Go into our traps, our bear trap. Save it as a bear trap. Okay, now let's zoom in here on edit this. Let's add an animation player. Okay, and then we're going to have a new animation, and it has this graphic has like a sheen to kind of like draw the attention. So we're just going to call this where'd my thing go? There it is. Let's call this, I'll just call it item. Okay, and then that is going to add in, we got 5, so that's going to start with our animation on frame. Create this. This is actually be on animation 5. And it's 5 frames long, so it's 0.5. Oops, I added a Q there. 0.5. Zoom in here. Add an extra key. Oh, let's change our snap to 0.1. Okay, and this is going to be 5 through 9. And we gotta make this continuous. Oops, continuous. So if you see here, it does like a little sheen. You know, let's do. Let's not make this continuous because I want to do something slightly different in this one. So let's insert a key here, let's insert a key here, insert a key here, and insert a key here. So this is 5, this will be 6, oops, 6, this will be 7, this will be 8, and this one will be 9, this one will make back to 0. And then what I'm going to do is when we get to 0, let's make this actually 1.5. And then I'm going to insert another key here. This is also going to be 0. So then, and we'll make it looping. So then they'll do the little sheen. I don't know if that's a... Seems kind of weird if we think about it, that it's just going to keep playing at a set interval. So why don't we just do... You know, let's stop this. Let's undo this. Let's put it back to where it was. Here we go. So we have our sheen. It's continuous. Oh, you know what? Maybe we want the ping pong. Let's try the ping pong. Ding. No. So we'll have it play through once. Oops. Play through once. Here we go. So I'll just do a quick little sheen. And then we're going to rename this animation. Let's rename this as sheen. Okay. And then we want to do a new animation. Let me just duplicate this. This is fine. We're going to call it idle. And in the idle one, we're going to make the value of 0. We're going to delete that because then it's just going to be a 5-second. We only need to make 5 seconds. 0.1 should be fine here. I mean, it's just a... Yeah. I'll just make it play once. Because then that'll just reset our trap back to just a standard looking thing. Then on a random interval, we'll play the sheen one time through. And then when that's done, we'll go back to the other. Okay. So we go back to sheen. Let's duplicate this. And then we're going to call it snap close. We'll just call it close. Okay. And then this is actually going to be on track 10. And then this is going to be... track 15. Let's see. Snap. Maybe only 14. No. 15 would be good. Okay. I'm actually going to rename this. Rename. I'm going to call it... I'm just going to call it snap instead. Snap. And now I think about it, what I kind of want to do is, it doesn't really make sense for the bear trap to reset itself. So we're just going to say it's going to snap. And then once it snaps, it's going to just stay in the snap close state. So then we need one more animation. We'll go back over here to idle. We'll duplicate this and we'll just call it close. Okay, and that one's going to be on frame 15. So now we have our reset. It looks like that. We have our sheen that does this. We have the idle. It just kind of sits there. Then we have the snap close where it snaps close. Okay, perfect. So we go back to our reset. Okay, so we got our animations. Now what we need to do is we need to trigger when the player enters it. So we want to look at the collision layer. We want to monitor for 2, which... You can see here that's our player layer. It doesn't look like the pop-ups are showing up in the stream, but if I've labeled my layers, so layer 1's ground, layer 2's player, or layer 3's enemies, and it just makes it easier for me to quickly identify. So when the player comes in, we want to snap shut. So let's attach our script to this. Bear trap. Yep, create that. Class name. I think if I was going to develop this as something beyond just a quick one level example, I would probably come back in here and make a trap class and then make subclasses based off that. But we're just going to call this bear trap for now. Oops, bear trap. There we go. So what we need is we're going to need the animation player. We're going to need the collision shape because we're going to want to turn that off after the player's triggered it. We're also going to need a hurt box. So when the thing snaps closed, we need to define the hurt box. So let's go back over here and let's do that right now. Let's add a child node of hurt box. Okay, and then that needs a collision shape. Okay, and let's make that a rectangle. Okay, and then for our own debugging purposes, let's make it just a red outline box. I guess we could do it that way. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to hold Alt, make it the size of the trap. Then let's go into our closed, so it's there. So we probably only want to make it this big. So if we go back and look at our snap animation, comes up, boom, snap, kind of bounces up and then snaps closed. Yeah, this should be good. Right to the top of the teeth. Takes half a second. What we'll do is we want to trigger this hurt box during this animation. So let's go back into here, animation. Let's add in a, let's see, this is a hurt box. We're looking for the player. If I remember right, just double check here, hurt box. Hurt box, we are just on the mask and we're only looking for monitoring. Okay. So let's go back over to our bear trap. We don't need monitorable because it's not an area that's going to enter. We're just monitoring area 2. Okay. And so what we want to do is we come back into the snap animation. We're going to make this part of our keyframe, create. So let's see. So this actually goes snap and close right there. So that's where we want the monitoring to turn on during that keyframe. So keyframe 2 sounds good. Boom, boom. And then right here, we're going to turn it off. Okay. So by default, this monitoring is not going to be on. So if we go back to our reset, I'll make sure that that's not on by default. And then during the snap shut, it'll be off, off, on, boom. Okay. And then this is a bear trap, so let's make it do something like really, really nasty for testing purposes. 5. We'll make it do 5 damage. That's going to kill the assassin right off because he's only got 5 hit points, but that will trigger that. So let's go here. Okay, so we got that. We got the hurt box. That's being handled by the animation, so we don't have to worry about that. Actually, we're going to bring this in just for one quick purpose. Because we want to make sure that just in case something interrupts the animation, we want to make sure it stays off so it doesn't continue to hurt the player in the future. So let's go down here. Let's do our function ready. Let's see. What do we need in our ready function? We need to connect to area entered or body entered. Body entered, connect. And then we need to connect to, let's call it snapshot. Whoops. Snapshot will be the function. Okay. Function snapshot. Wow, my keyboard's extra sensitive today. We have the body that's coming in, which is a character body. We're not returning anything, so we can just do void. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to do the animation player, and we want to do animation player play, and we want to do snap. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do the animation player dot animation finish dot connect, and we're going to just call it disable. Let's call it disable trap. Okay. So function. Wow, can't type today. Function disable trap. This is going to send in the animation animation name. It's a string. We're not going to use it, hence why we preference it with the underscore. But it does send it, so we have to make sure it's aware. And then here's where we're going to do the hurtbox dot monitoring equals false. So we're going to make sure that after it snaps shut, there's no more monitoring of that. Okay. Okay, and on ready, we want to play. We also need a timer. So we want it to be random. So let's do a var here. Let's do var timer. And we'll make it a float. We're going to set it equal to 0 to start with. Okay, so then let's do this. Let's do timer. Timer equals random float. We're going to do range. So let's see. Let's give it at least a second, but let's give it up to 10 seconds. That sounds fun. Oops, rand f. There we go. Range. Okay, and then we're going to come down here into our function underscore our physics process. And we're going to do timer minus equals, minus equals, because we're going to subtract each time the delta. Okay. And then if timer is less than or equal to 0, let's kick off a just trying to think of the best way to do this. Do we want to do a function call, or do I just want to handle it right here? I'll just do it right here. Let's just do it right here. Animation player dot play, and we're gonna play Sheen. Okay, and then we're gonna do an await animation player dot animation finished, and then we're gonna do our timer thing again. We're just gonna go back up here, copy this. We'll just rejigger our timer. Okay. Yeah, so let's see what goes on with this. Let's see. I feel like I'm missing something. So we get that. We get the sheen. Ooh, we need one more frame on that sheen. Oh, no, we don't need another frame. We just need to play the idle animation. So we'll do this. We'll play it as idle. There we go. That should fix that. So give it up to 10 seconds. sheen. Sits there. There's another sheen. Okay. So let's see if when we jump into it, see if it triggers. It certainly did. But as you can see, it's that shake is a little excessive, so maybe I'll tone down how much damage it does, because that's a little hard to see right now. So let's go back here. Bear trap, hurt box. Let's put it down to hurt box. We'll leave it at 1 for right now for testing purposes. Fall into it, snap, close. Again, though, it's resetting, so we have to go back and stop it from resetting. Because what's happening is that timer is timing out, and it's resetting back to the idle after it sheens. Okay, so we'll go back here. Let's just make it simple. Let's just do a var, call it triggered. Triggered. We'll make it a bool. We're going to set the false. We're going to also do that here. We're going to say it's equal to false. And then when we snap shut, we're going to set it to true here. True. We can wrap all of this saying if not triggered. And then, oops, we can put all this in here. We'll do the sheen. So once it's been triggered, it should not go back through and redo this again. We do want to just animation finish, connect disable traps, disable trap, and then here we're just going to set the animation player to play closed. There we go. Okay. Snapshot. Oh, we're still resetting. Why are we resetting? Oh, we're resetting because we're not disabling the area entered. Okay, so we need to go back up here. I thought we disabled the monitoring, but I guess we... right here, Hurtbox monitoring. Oh, we did the Hurtbox monitoring. We didn't do the this collision area. So we're going to take this collision shape, which is this right here, and we're going to set it to disabled. This dot disabled equals true. Okay. Now this should stop it. It should go off once. It should not go off again. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we've got the bear trap all set and all done. That one is working. So what we can do, let's just move this around. Let's put this in a different spot. Let's put the bear trap right over here, because that, you know what, that'll be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Let's mess with our player. Okay, let's see. Next on our list is, let's do. Well, let's see. What's my time at? Okay, about time to take a break. But let's quickly do the spikes. Okay, so let's add a child node. Let's add another area 2D. You know what? Let's just do this. Let's take the bear trap. Scene. Save scene as. No, you know what? This is Godot. Let's not do that. Let's build it new. Because when you copy things in Godot, sometimes the linking gets a little messed up. So let's not do that. Let's add a sprite 2D. This is going to be our spikes. So here's our spikes. We've got, I believe there's one. Let's see, one. I think there's 5 in this. Let's see here. Texture animation. I think it's 5. Let's see here. We can come back and play with it after. But I think it's 5. I think there's 5 in this. So let's move the area 2D. Let's put it down here. 5 might still be. Let's go back here and look at this in frames. There we go. 9. That might be the actual answer. Let's try that. 9. Okay. So we got our spikes here. Let's go here. Let's rename this spikes. There's no R in spikes. There we go. Spikes. Let's see. What else do we need? We need a child node. We need a collision shape. Okay. Needless to say, this is going to be a nice rectangle. Did we do that? We did that again. Okay. So we transform. There we go. We moved the object, or the sprite, not in tandem with the actual object. So we want to make sure we don't do that. Okay. So sprites. Okay. And then this, let's go in here. Let's adjust our put them down a little bit. It's one of those things where it depends upon what you're doing. A lot of times, especially when you're making your enemies, you want to make their actual hitbox where you make contact with them a little bit less than their actual pixel outline, or else it's going to feel kind of unfair to the player. Where remember that as soon as these two areas collide with each other, it's going to trigger this. And so if you have anything that's outside the shape of the artwork, players are going to be like, hey, this is, how am I touching it when clearly you can see there's a pixel gap between the two. So if you make them slightly smaller, a lot of times that's better for things. So if scroll it down to like this, that will definitely help some. So let's see, we got spikes here. Let's create this as a new scene again. And we're going to put this in our spikes. Spikes. We're going to edit the spikes. Okay. And then we're going to add a animation player again. We're going to add new. We're going to call this one sheen as well, because this one has a nice little sheen to it. Let's go here with our animation. We got 9 of these. Let's see, frames. This is where we're going to find out if I have the right number of frames or not. So let's see, 9, so 0.9. Insert a key. This will be 6, 7, 8. There we go. Just make sure our snaps are up. Continuous, because I don't like to do individual frames. There we go. Okay, play once, and at the end, it'll just stay on this last frame. Perfect. Okay. So we'll save that. We need also, we're going to need a add child node. We need a hurtbox. And the one thing that I don't have here that I need to add, especially for spikes, is we need a knockback. So when the player lands on the spikes, it kicks them out. Or else what's going to happen is they're going to sit here in the box. And because we're not going to continuously check to see if the player is still in the spikes or not, what it's going to do is it's going to just let them walk back and forth, and then when they jump out, if they come back in, then it'll trigger again. So with the knockback, then we can kick them out of the spike hurt zone, so then if they enter again, then they get hurt again. But or else right now, the way it's going to, again, how it's going to happen is they're going to get hurt, they're going to land in it, they're going to be able to walk back and forth. It's not as good, but it happens. So let's see here. Hurtbox, we need a collision shape. Oops. Okay. So again, hurtbox. We're going to change the color of this. We're going to make this bright red just because we can. Oops. Red. Drop the alpha. Nah, we'll just leave that like that. We'll make it a rectangle. Make it the size of the spikes. Again, we'll make it just a little bit lower. You know, this, we probably don't even need this, really. Because we're not doing anything when we enter. We're not triggering an animation. We're not moving it. So this collision shape, when it enters, there's not really much to do. So this is going to be actually pretty easy. We got 1 damage here. We got this. I don't think there's... The only thing we need to do is just the animation for the sheen, just like we did with the bear trap. So we'll just do this again. Spike trap. And then we'll bring in the animation player. We'll do a var for a timer. Don't really need to set a value there, but we do. Timer equals random f range. We did 0 to 10. You know, we'll just leave it at that for right now. And then we can do function physics process. And they're good. I use physics process because for the most part, the physics process is going to run 1 frame every not 1 frame. It's going to run 60 frames a second, whereas the process will vary on the actual number of frames the end system can use. So if you're running, like, you know, say on a high end i9 with a 5090, you're going to get like 200 something frames a second. Whereas if you run an Intel integrated video card, you're going to only get like 60 frames a second in the process. So we want to try to keep it as constant as possible. So I'm going to stick it in the physics process. Plus, that way we're not losing overhead, you know, checking to see if this timer is expired 250 times like we would with the process. We're only going to do it 60 times a second. So that's my theory behind it. There's not really a one way or the other, except for things like, you know, you want to do falling or anything related to physics in the physics process. But there are times where the process makes more sense. You know, if you want to look at something like Destiny 2, they deal damage based on the delta in the process function. So it's kind of funny, if you have a higher FPS machine, you know, you're a high-end video game machine, your shots actually do less damage than the shots from somebody with a slower machine. And it's the way that they balance player interaction and stuff. It's kind of a cool idea if you think about it and want to make sure that everyone's getting the same play feel out of it. So let's do timer minus equals delta. If timer is less than or equal to 0, oops, that's greater than. We want less than. Then we want to do, oh, I forgot. We have the animation player, play, and we're going to play sheen. And then after that, we need to reset the timer again. Random f range 0, 10. And there we go. So now our spikes. I think our spikes are done. So we got them here. You should see sometime randomly. There they go. But we're not getting hurt, and I know exactly why. Because guess what we forgot to change on the hurt box? We didn't tell it to look for the player. There we go. Player. Okay. And we're only monitoring. We don't need to be monitorable. So. We go in here. We go, ow! But again, the problem is, now that we're in the box, we can run around through the spikes forever. So if you wanted to like stop a player from being able to, get somewhere, this is not going to work for you, because then they're going to take 1 damage in the spike and just run across the spikes. Not a big deal. So we want to we'll want to look into how we can fix that going forward. So, but spikes are done. Now let's do our sword trap. So let's see here. Let's go back. Let's see, where do we want our sword trap? You know what? Right here. This looks like a... I don't know how big this animation is when the sword swings side to side. I'm going to assume it's more gentle, so it should probably fit in that space, but let's find out. Let's take our assassin. Let's move him back up here, so then when we test, we can see in this scene. So let's go. This is the left and down. So let's add a child node, and area 2D. Okay, and we called this one swaying sword. Okay, let's add in our sprite. Wow, there we go, sprite. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit more complicated. So let's see here. We've got, boy, I can't count all these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 it looks like. Okay, animation. I think it's 27. Hey, there we go. I counted right. And there is 2, whoops. That was 0. There is 2 vertical frames. Nope, there's 3 vertical frames. Okay. Okay, and then again, we'll move the entire thing. So we'll start it right here. Okay, so there's the swaying sword. We do need a collision shape because this is going to fall down and it's going to hit the ground and stick in the ground. So we definitely need a... Do we need a collision shape? We should, because then it will actually stop when it's falling for the physics process. So yeah, so let's go here. Okay. I like just making everything rectangle. It's super simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of extra compute power to deal with it. So we'll do this, and then we're going to move the collision shape to be the sword itself. We're probably going to have to readjust this as we look at the animation, because it's going to swing back and forth, but we'll look at the animation and see where we are at. Okay, so we got this. Let's start. Just save this as our new swaying sword. Save. Okay. Okay. Let's add in our animation player. Okay, animation new, and this is just going to be sway. Should be, I mean, idle arguably, but I'm going to call it sway for now. And we're going to start with frame 0. So I'm going to go 0 through 26. Okay. Create. Everything I have, I try to do in terms of a tenth of a second per frame. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not. Don't know. That's just what I do though. 26. Okay. So if we do this, oop, we gotta change it to continuous. That doesn't quite look the way I want it to look. So let's drop this down to 1.3 and see if we... I think if we go any faster, it's going to look a little weird. Well, let's try it. Let's put 0.8 and see how that looks. That looks a little fast. It still has that. Let me put it back to 1.3. If I change it into ping ponging, it looks funny. Okay. And we'll leave it at that for now. Okay. And then we'll do a new animation. Let's call it drop. Okay, and then that is going to trigger off on 27. And then that one's going to go through, I forget now. Down. There we go. There we go, 31. So that's only going to be 4 seconds. So let's do 0.4. This one's going to be a single play because this is going to be where it detaches from the rope. So we see the rope here. We got, and then it's going to fall. Drop, and then duplicate. We're going to call it fall. And then fall is going to be, let's see, 27 and 27 is, or 27 and 26 is 50. It's not 52, it's 53. No, 54. Oh, 27, 27. Yep. 54. Okay, so 54 is where it's stuck into the ground. Okay, so we just want whatever this end one was. 31. Just want 31 for the fall. That's not right. Let's look at the sprite sheet. So I thought it had a frame where it's just the sword falling. We'll leave it there for now. It's not, it has the rope in it, so I don't really like it. But we'll have to come back and create some new art because there's no art here with just the sword falling by itself. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Is 31. We don't need it to be anything more than 0.1 seconds. Okay, so falling, it's just going to look like that. And then we have new, and we'll just call it stuck, because then it's in the ground, and this is where it becomes 54. There it is. And it's stuck in the ground. Yeah, I don't think we're going to need this collision shape, but we'll see. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go back to our reset animation. Boom. So we got the string. Here it is hanging. You know, if I really wanted to be creative, they have, Godot has like a pivot and chain thing, so you can actually do the simulation physics for this. And if you want to be real creative, I'm definitely not going to do that. So, okay, so let's go here. We need to then do a on top of this, we need add child node, we need a raycast. Do I want it to be a raycast, or do I want it to be an area 2D that extends below it? That's a good question. Let's just do a raycast for now. We'll see how it feels. Okay, so we'll take our raycast. We will, we'll leave it right there. That's fine. Let's extend it way down though. Let's give it like a 128. That sounds like fun. We're at what, 320 by 200, so 128 is a good chunk of the screen, especially when we have this part dangling down. We need it set so it detects the player. Okay, so let's just save that. If we go back here and look, yep, and you can see here it's hanging far enough down that it can then, excuse me, detect the player anytime it walks underneath. Okay, so now we need to add our script. Swinging sword, create. Or swaying sword, not swinging sword. Swaying sword. Trap. Oh, it. Because for some reason I took out the word extends. Okay, we're gonna move it. So I might have to adjust this later on. We're definitely gonna need the animation player. We're definitely gonna need the raycast. I like to rename these. I like to call these player detector. I find that it's just a little bit easier in my code to keep things straight. So, okay, now if you come down here, let's go to function ready. We're gonna add in one more var. Triggered boolean equals false. Again, we're gonna come down here. We're gonna just set it equal to false in the beginning, just in case, like when we do scene resets and stuff like that. Just helps clean things up. Okay, we're going to take the player detector. We're going to, is colliding. We're going to connect to, oh, no, we're going to, that's going to go in our physics process. Physics process, if player detector is colliding, oops, we're going to call a function of trigger trap. Function trigger trap. We're going to first tell our animation player .play, and we're going to play drop. Okay, so it's going to play that. We're going to await animation player dot animation finished. Sword fall. Okay. Oh. Now, if we're going to await it, we don't need to do anything else. There we go. So we're going to wait. Once it finishes, we need to then start moving this object. So we're going to do we want to change the position .y, and then we're going down with it. So we need plus equals. Do we have a gravity? Plus equals gravity. You know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to cut this out here. And I'm just going to write here, I'm going to do triggered. Now, I'm going to do falling equals true. And then I'm going to make one more var up here. Var falling bool equals true. Okay. We're going to do falling equals false in the beginning. Physics process, if it is colliding, and then we're going to say if falling. And then we're going to do this. Position plus equals gravity times delta. Okay, and then we'll just worry about that for right now. We just want to make sure this is working. So if it triggers, we're going to play the drop animation, and then here we need to play the fall. So then we show the sword falling. Falling is true if it's falling. And then we just need to figure out when it hits the ground. But right now, because its collision is set for 1, the sword itself is going to stop as soon as it hits the ground. So we'll just have to figure out. We may just turn off layer 1 of it existing in layer 1 and just detecting when it crosses. But let's see. There's that. Let's see what we got here. Get this. That was a very fast sword. Was it swaying? Oh, we never started the swaying animation. Okay. So let's do that here. Animation player dot play, and then we're gonna play sway. There we go. We got a sword that's swinging there. Downside here is once I fix the camera to be stuck on the room, we'll be able to see it better. Okay, so now let's make it so the falling, so when it falls, we don't need the player detector anymore. If it is colliding, we'll just disable the player detector dot. What's the term for enabled? So we're going to turn off the player detector. Okay, and then you know what? I'm going to do this. It's probably a better way to do this, but I'm going to do it my own way. Why not? Let's add a child node, raycast. This is going to be I'm going to call it ground detector. Wow, I can't spell. D-E-T-E-C-T-O-R. Ground detector. Okay. And if we come back in here and we look, let's just shut this off so we can see it. We'll shut off the player detector. There's the ground detector. Let's make it. I'm trying to remember here. Let's go into our frame. Frame. Animation. Where's our animation? Sprite. Here we go. Animation. Actually, you know what? We can just do animation player stuck. Okay. So it's right there. Hilt of the sword. So if I go right from the top of the sword. So if I say right there. Top of the sword, and then it goes to right here. Boom. We've stuck the ground. We'll just go just a hair bit further. Okay. So now if I go back here to our reset, then I just move the ground detector back up to the top of the sword. Okay. So then when it crosses this point right here, we're going to say, hey, we're stuck in the ground. Okay. So now let's go back to our code. Let's bring in the ground detector. Boom. Oh, and we gotta make sure ground detector, yes, is set for 1. Okay. Boom. If falling and not ground detector is colliding, do this. If ground detector dot is colliding, we're going to do position dot. Well, we're going to do animation player dot play. Too many dots there. Dot play. Stuck. So now if that triggers, it should do that. We're also going to, so we're disabling that right there. We're going to do falling equals false and triggered. And then we'll do triggered equals true. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to do the ground detector dot enabled equals false. We're going to shut that off. We're going to wrap this all in if not triggered, just like we did the other ones. We're going to put all this right here. If it's not triggered, do all that. Okay. We turn off falling, we play the stuck. Turn off the ground detector and say we triggered it. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it stays stuck in the ground. It does, but because we move so fast, gravity times delta. Gravity, I think it should be gravity divided by delta. Let's try that. Whoa. Okay, nope, that was not it. Okay. What if we just add delta? It's probably gonna move stupid slow. Yeah, okay. Let's look, let's just go over here. Let's look at our velocities. Gravity times delta times gravity multiplier. Gravity here is this. So we'll just copy that over here. Once I have an actual player manager and stuff like that, I can deal with that. So gravity here, position, gravity times delta. It's a native class. Okay, so we don't want to. It still seems like it's going too fast. So let's slow it down by half speed. Let's just see whether it works. Seems like it's falling at the right speed. The problem we do have now, though, is it's getting stuck way past when it should. So let's change our detector. Ground detector. Where's our stuck? Animation. Stuck. So if we put it right there, let's see. Oh, a little bit too high. Oh, because I didn't put it at the top of the sword. I should put it right at the top of the sword. There we go. Let's try that. Oof. Okay. So now we got our sword. We need to do one more thing to the sword. You gotta make it hurt you. So let's go back up here. Let's go to the animation. Let's go to falling, because we only want it to hurt us while we're falling. Let's add in a hurt box. And with the hurt box, let's add a child of collision 2D. We'll make this as a rectangle, and look at that, perfect timing. My timer just ran out, so again, let's just change this to red just so we know that it's a hurt box. Make it again. Let's see, size of the sword. We only want it to be on the blade itself. We'll make it small. There we go. Hurt box. It is set for collision with player 2. We don't need the monitorable. Okay. And then in here, hurt box. Again, by default, hurt box is going to be off. We'll leave it on, because then if you jump into it, you can get hurt. But then, once it's triggered, we're going to take the hurt box right here. Hurt box dot monitoring equals false. So now it should fall. It should hurt us. Ow. And then it won't hurt us again. And then also if we jump into it, it hurts. Okay. So we've got a sword that falls, we got a bear trap, and we've got spikes. So we've added 3 obstacles today. Yay! Good job. Awesome. And then maybe next time we will get around and add in the boss. So let's go back here to this. So thanks for sticking with me for this. I hope one more day, and I've had a week off from work, so I've been trying to put a little bit of time into this. Hopefully tomorrow I want to add in a couple new enemies. I want to add in something else in the stage, probably 2 more enemies in the stage itself. The flamethrower guy, he looks cool. I love the explosion in the yellow. He kind of feels a little off right now as being the main main enemy that you're going to fight. So I want to take and bring him, reduce the number of times we encounter him. Maybe even turn him into a sub-boss. I don't know. But we've got a couple other things from the Dark series that I'm going to take and use and make into bad guys. And then I've also got the one of the bosses. It's kind of like a floating head with like lasers. I kind of want to throw him in and see if we can get that going. Just some rough thing. And then we'll have at least a semi-flow of something we can get through in like maybe a minute or 2 minutes. And then once we have the flow of things, then we can work on expanding the stage and making things a little bit more interactive and fun. But until then, I will take and catch you all tomorrow.